the group of students who specialize in working with adults, and another to represent the group of students who specialize in working with children. The decisions as to who is going to speak with us today on behalf of the class is made by faculty. And they tend to choose a person based on GPA and other observations that the faculty has made about professional and personal growth over time and certain other criteria. And it is not an easy job, because each one of these very special people that I'm looking at right now could have had a lot to offer. However, we do need to choose two. And I want to introduce to you the two that were chosen, starting with the individual who is going to speak on behalf of the cohort, but this individual represents the people who specialize in working with adults. So this individual is TimGradSpeechSmall. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Tim's name was repeatedly mentioned by various individuals, and he was described by faculty, and I'm relying now exactly on what they said, Tim. So you were described by faculty as extremely bright and articulate, humble, generous, and kind. Now, I told some of the cohort people, because you know, you really get the real story when you ask the folks that spend all the time with him. But Tim, they still maintain the same thing about you. I couldn't find any dirt, Tim. And I tried. But they too described you as, here we go, brilliant, that was like mentioned by a few, thorough, musical. I didn't know that, Tim. That's wonderful. Kind-hearted, ever so helpful, caring, a great listener, all around a great guy, and always has really funny side comments during class. Now, you and I have to chat afterwards, right? Now, but I have to tell you something really funny. When I called, can I share that with the group? We had a nice chat. I just told Tim's brother about that. I think it's really cute, I have to tell you. So I'm the current group academic advisor, having picked up where Julie left. So I've been with this group for about a year or so. So as the academic advisor, I called Dr. Dabelspeck. He has a PhD in chemical engineering. Just a minor kind of thing to mention to you guys. So I invited him to be the speaker, right? And he said, Michelle, I can't say no, but I'm not ready to say yes yet. Now, listen to that. I told him, it's okay, I know you're going to talk. You know why I told him that? 30 years ago, first time I proposed to my husband, one of many times, my husband said, I can't say no, but I'm not ready to say yes quite yet. I knew it's going to be okay. Tim's going to do it. And in fact, it is with delight that I'm inviting Tim to speak with us today.
Thank you, Michelle. I think I should just probably go home right now, because there's no way that I can ever live up to everything that Michelle just said. But it's really been our great good fortune to hear some wonderful speakers today. Maybe not so much my great good fortune to have to follow them, but Dr. Erickson and Jeff, thank you very much for your talks. Those were excellent. So, thank you for the introduction. Thank you all for being here. And thanks to the administration and faculty of SNHU, Anna Marie, Michelle, Sarah Schoos, Julie Welkowitz, Nancy Pandina, and everyone who helped to make this master's degree program the vibrant growth experience that it's been for me and for our class group. And I'd also like to thank my family, some of whom are here today, for their incredible support during this time, especially Paula, and of course my brother Andy, and Ben and Yuan. But most of all, my heartfelt thanks to all of my classmates in the cohort, Vermont 11, who shared the experience with me and who most surely, like me, thought this day might never come. I'm happy to be here. Life is indeed good. Isn't it just the best time of year? This weekend's weather notwithstanding, but the time of year? The startup of baseball, the Boston Marathon, soon the Kentucky Derby, and the first signs of growth in the flower beds and on the trees. And all of the best weather of the Vermont spring and summer lying just ahead of us. It's just full of hope and promise. I often like to get up in the early morning when it's still dark and run into the first light of dawn, when the air is chill and the trees are teeming with the awakening sounds of returning bird life. It's invigorating and it gives inspiration for the whole day, and the best part of it is, it's over by 6 a.m. or so. The benefit smooths everything else that will happen that day, and there's no need to worry about exercising again for at least another day. This program has been a great run. Somewhat analogous to my morning run, except for the part about it being over quickly. This one more of a marathon, but an inspiring and invigorating run nonetheless. Through challenging intellectual terrain, through darkness and uncertainty and great difficulty, and literally through all kinds of weather, we pressed ever onward towards this day. And here we are. We've made it. Crossed the finish line triumphant as victors together, all of us winners. So not just thanks, but sincere congratulations to all of you in Vermont 11. What a tremendous accomplishment. And I know there were times when it was very difficult and challenging for each of us. We've written, by my reckoning, about 70 papers, plus the master's thesis, which probably counts as the equivalent of another 20 to 25 papers. We've each done probably 25 presentations, well, 26 now for me. Read another 25 or so texts and supplementary books and countless articles, and spent over 600 hours of classroom time together, plus another 1,000 hours of internship and practicum. I'd say we've earned our wings. But quite a lot happens during 3.25 years. Life happens. Within our group, a fair number who began with us have discontinued the program for various reasons. For all of us who have stuck together and are here today, many life events have occurred. Weddings, a number of babies have been born to first-time parents, and some have even become grandparents. We've disciplined ourselves and sacrificed, missing activities with family and friends, foregoing vacations, and working through life transitions that occurred with indifference to our commitment here. And so now that it's been over for a few months, I trust that we have each begun to rediscover this long-forgotten aspect of life known as uncommitted free time and the freedom to waste some of it. I know I certainly have. But I may have moved from one extreme to the other, as not only has school ended for me, but I also just retired on March 31st from my 32-year career as an engineer, which means that I've gone in a heartbeat from living a highly disciplined, structured, and all-consuming life to one that has no structure, little accountability, and what seems like total freedom to do whatever I might choose to do. I could really get into some trouble if I'm not careful. It's probably something of an illusion, but one which I've been enjoying, having for the moment chosen to take it slow, while I gradually take time to get my bearings, and as I do, begin to build anew a life with some structure, a manageable balance, and new sources of personal meaning. When asked to speak for a few minutes today about my journey, I was at first apprehensive and uncertain. It's a real honor, and I was pleased to be asked, but it was not immediately obvious to me that I should do it. I needed a little time to think about it. I wanted to feel sure that it would be fitting and right, and probably okay, with all of you, my classmates. Partly due to my lack of work experience in the mental health field compared to all of you, my non-conforming academic background and career history, even my somewhat advanced age relative to our class average. These things, together with my inclination to keep a low profile and a natural discomfort with talking about myself for more than a few seconds, all made me initially hesitant. But as I thought more carefully, I realized that although yes, while all of this is true, my differences seem a lot less significant to me now than they did when we started this program. And that over the course of the past 3+ years, what is really true and important is all that has become unifying for us through this learning experience, which is motivated by our collective interest in being of service to others, and which we equally share. There is nothing any of you have ever done to make me feel different. You have been more than welcoming to me, And so I think of my talking today at our celebration as really being in honor of you, of the incredible experience intensely shared together, and the mutual empathy and strength of relationship we've derived from it. I believe we have each grown to become more like the best of each other since our first meeting. And certainly while any of us could speak and do it well, maybe for me the distinction of having been quite so different at first makes it in fact appropriate for me to be one to say something. And if I do it, maybe you are even somewhat relieved, as I would surely be, that it means you don't have to. More alike, yes, and yet the significance of our individual origins prior to having met cannot be ignored. Our families, our childhoods, our upbringing, our personal life experiences, our unique personalities, and much more, all played into who we were when we first met and as we were indoctrinated into Vermont 11, beginning with orientation day back in the fall of 2010, when we worked competitively in teams of strangers to build towers as high as possible using matchbooks, popsicle sticks, paper clips, blocks, and other randomly shaped objects. My own journey into the mental health field has its roots in my childhood, I'm sure. I didn't come from a family that had a lot of money, but one in which true wealth meant a loving family, good health, opportunity, good humor, and close relationships. The religious orientation of my mother and grandparents exposed me regularly and early to biblical admonitions, some of which lodged firmly in my psyche. One that stands out: to whom much has been given, of they will much be required, and to whom much was entrusted, of them more will be asked. In the mid-2000s, my engineering career was thriving, but I was beginning to notice signs of diminishing personal fulfillment. Growth opportunities had begun to decline. My family and I had just been through a difficult period of loss, extending from 1995 to 2003, during which time 4 very close family members became seriously ill and died, including both my parents and my sister. Divorce and single parenting 2 children added to the challenge of that time. I was approaching midlife, and crisis was no stranger. Around 2006, a severe substance dependence issue arose in my family, and I found myself the point person, waging a battle and a desperate struggle for my family members' survival over the next few years. That experience was intense, completely involving, and frequently terrifying, often leaving me lunging erratically from one unpredictable crisis to another, as if while careening down a winding mountain road, the steering wheel was coming off in my hands at the same time as the accelerator had become stuck to the floor. Living daily on the edge of imminent peril with someone you love more than your own life exacts a severe personal toll, but also affords profound life-changing perspective. In the midst of that, in 2008, I entered the Episcopal Church Education for Ministry program, which is founded on the premise that our lives each have a mission, and that it is up to us to determine what that is at a very deep soul level. Through 2 years in that program, it had begun to become clear I was already living it. I was already practicing what mission my life required of me now through my efforts on behalf of my beloved family members. T.S. Eliot is quoted as having said, "We shall not cease from exploration, and at the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and to know the place for the first time," which is in effect to say that our spiritual path is often like a search leading home, to a place that was always there, but that we previously did not fully recognize, understand, or appreciate. For me, by about 2009-2010, not only had my career become less enjoyable, but through it I was not connecting with that which felt to be of essential importance. While families were being ripped apart and lives were being lost to addiction, was what I was doing with my precious time every day in my chosen long-term career really the best that I could do in the grand scheme of things? It was then that I decided to enter the PCMH program. I was aware that I was on a life-changing journey that had already provided me with valuable experiential learning that might benefit others facing some of the same challenges that I had faced. And I thought that the way that I might most effectively practice helping might be to become a legitimate counselor, to learn the real skills, and then to join the helping community in that capacity. Thus, with each new class in our program, every time we went around the room to introduce ourselves to a new teacher, I was the one who didn't already have some kind of a direct connection to the service profession, and so I would be reminded that I was the one who had the most ground to cover, the most to learn, and the most catching up to do. I was the outlier. One point at which I realized that I was indeed doing a lot of this kind of catching up and was in fact growing a very broad foundation was when in the human development class I was responsible for coordinating our group's PowerPoint presentation on breastfeeding versus bottle feeding. In that moment I realized that while this was really great, I had gone about as far as I felt necessary in that particular direction. Even to this day, I still get at least 2 or 3 emails every day that have subject titles like Best Women's Designer Maternity Style and It's Easy to Find the Nursing Bra You Need, which began with my online research travels through various websites in putting that presentation together. Since the time I signed up for this program in 2010, you have all been a large part of my inspiration to keep going. The commitment we all made and have kept both to ourselves and to each other was renewed and practiced every month when we meet once again for class. Some of you regularly traveled extreme distances to be there, measured in hours, like Charlie, Heather, Kathleen, Sarah Kay. None of them happen to actually be here today. They sure traveled lots of you. and Emily. And a few others. And you never missed a beat. As life challenged each of your personal lives, you met the challenge head-on, persisted, and ultimately prevailed. Again, you inspired me. This program has opened me up to a whole new and wonderful cross-section of humanity and of our community in the person of all of you, and others that I found through my internship, the committed helpers, with whom I had much in common, but with whom I previously had no regular involvement. Because of you and through this experience, it has begun to seem realistic for me now to use my own abilities to help others in a way that perhaps I could have benefited had that help been accessible to me at the time that I most needed it. So this part of the journey for me has been very much about becoming a real part of the helping community, to join with you and to become one of you. What I had not anticipated was that I would find so much warmth and acceptance along the way from all of you. No one ever said, "So what on earth are you doing here?" And it has really been in developing successful relationships with each of you that I have come from feeling my differences so starkly at the beginning to feeling like I belong today. I thank you deeply for your openness to me and your friendliness through this time, all of which have been such a tremendous bonus. I will always cherish these relationships we've formed here. But what next? The degree is a wonderful achievement, but I think we all know that it's not an endpoint. What we celebrate today is a critical transitional moment in time, each along our own personal path of human service. The obvious question now is, what will we each make of this moment? How do we best capture this potential that we've created and channel its energy and momentum into a benefit for others, and indirectly for ourselves? What good stuff will we now go do? To each of us, much has been given, much has been learned and accomplished, and now from each of us, much is expected. Perhaps for right now, the question itself is enough. We don't necessarily need to know the answer yet, as long as we are living the question. For today, we celebrate our accomplishment, take a deep breath of fresh spring air, and begin to enjoy some free time once again as we continue on our way. Life will continue to happen, but I'm determined to make the most of whatever time there is, and my motivation to help, to grow, to teach, to learn is as high as it has ever been. I will very much miss the vitality and stimulation that I've grown accustomed to sharing with you each month. And I would like to take one final opportunity to say to you, my classmates who are also my friends and who've also been my teachers, and to the actual teachers of the program, thank you so much. Best wishes for all good things for you in the future, and again, congratulations. I sincerely hope that we will stay connected and that our paths will cross again from time to time in the future.